Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start tonight, you're going to need one light colored crayon. So like a pink or a light green or a yellow. So you might want to pause the video and make sure you have a light colored crayon. Okay, today's our first lesson in subtracting fractions. We're going to begin by, our goal is that we're going to learn to subtract fractions using an area model. So a couple reminders is our vocab is what is a fraction. A fraction is composed of a numerator, and sometimes we have been just putting an n as our notes, and a denominator. And as a shortcut in your notes, you could put a d. Okay, so you always have a numerator and a denominator, and they both have very different jobs. So the numerator's job tells you how many parts you have. That's the key. How many parts you have. Where the denominator's job tells you how many parts the whole was cut into. So for example, this means this cake or this pizza was cut into 5 pieces, but we only have 2 of the pieces. Okay, so just a quick reminder of what that is. Okay, we're still going to be asked to simplify our answers. So we have talked about that we use the GCF to simplify. Remember, the GCF means your greatest common factor. So, and I told you to kind of remember factors fit inside the number, so we don't get them confused with multiples. Okay, so if I have the fraction 6/20ths, how I would simplify this using my greatest common factor is I would list my factors. So my factors of 6 are numbers that multiply together to get 6. 1 and 6. So 1 times 6 gets 6. 2 times 3 gets 6. And I'm going to stop because I would try 3 next. My factors of 20 are 1 times 20. 2 times 10. 3 times nothing. It doesn't work. And 4 times 5. And then I would stop because my next number would be 5. So they have in common 1, they have in common 2, and that's it. So my GCF, or my greatest common factor, is 2. So I would divide by 2, and I'm going to get an equivalent fraction, but a simplified fraction. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 6/20ths is equal to 3/10, but this is the simplified version. Okay, another way that we had talked about doing that is kind of going through the GCF in your head. So asking yourself, is 6 the GCF? Does 6 fit into both of these? Well, it fits into 6, but it doesn't fit in here. So if 6 doesn't work, let's try 5. Nope, 5 doesn't fit into here perfectly. Let's try 4. Does 4 work? Nope. 3? Yes. 3 fits into 6 perfectly. Oh, but it doesn't fit into here perfectly. So 3 is not my GCF. Let's try 2. 2 fits into 6 perfectly, and 2 fits into 20 perfectly. So I know my GCF is 2, and I get 3/10. So for this one, all I did was, I did the same idea. I looked for the GCF, but I started by counting backwards. So you can choose either method. You can list out your factors, or you could go through them in your head and ask yourself if they work. Okay, so let's try another one. So my fraction is 4/28ths, and I need to figure out what the GCF is. So I could come over here and list my factors. 1 times 4, 2 times 2. Okay, let's try for 28. 1 times 28, 2 times, that one's a little tricky, 14. 3 times nothing, because 3 times 9 is 27, and then 3 times 10 is 30. 4 times 7, oh, I'm running out of room. 5 times nothing, 6 times nothing, and 7 does it, I would repeat. So my common factors are 1, 2, 4. So my GCF is 4. So I'm going to come over here and divide by 4. And I get 4/28 is equal to 1/7, but this is the simplified version. I also could have done this in my head by asking myself, is it the GCF? So I always start with this and say, is 4 my GCF? Does 4 fit into 4 perfectly? Yes. Does 4 fit into 28 perfectly? Yes. And then I would have known that I could have just simplified by 4. So I like to go through it in my head, but that's up to you. Okay, our steps this time, now remember we're going back to the area model, so we're going to be drawing and shading. So my first step is draw and shade both fractions. Here's the key. Make sure one is horizontal and one is vertical. That is very, very, very important. So important it gets 3 stars. Okay, then we're going to add lines to make the models match. This is kind of like coming up with a common denominator. They need to match before I could add them or subtract them. Step 3 is I'm going to subtract by crossing off. And I'll show you what this looks like. And we always start with your fraction. So you always start subtracting with your fraction. Then we're going to write your answer, and then you're going to simplify using the GCF. And again, when you do this GCF, you can list them out, or you can go through them in your head. That's up to you, wherever you feel like you are right now in math. Okay, so what does this actually look like? Okay, let me get my paper ready. So here's my first problem. And if you remember when we did these before, I hate when they're written slanted. So I always like to rewrite them. So my problem is 5, 6, take away 3/4. Okay, so step 1, let me get my steps up here so I can look at them. Say draw and shade both fractions. Make sure one is horizontal and one's vertical. Okay, so I'm going to first draw 5, 6. So 5, 6 looks like this. It's been cut into 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. Ooh, I made a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. It's been cut into 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I have 5 of them. So let me get my crayon to shade in what do I have. So I have 5 of them. Hopefully the yellow shows up good. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is what 5, 6 is, and I want to take away 3/4. Now remember, when I draw this one, I have to make sure this one's vertical, so I need to make sure this one's horizontal. So it's been cut into 4 pieces, and I have 3 of the pieces. Okay, so that is what step 1 looks like. I drew and shaded both of them. Okay, let's look at my next step. Add lines to make models match. Okay, so this one is missing its horizontal lines. So I had drawn 1, 2, 3 horizontal lines. So I'm going to come over here and draw 1, 2, 3. And it's hard to kind of see them over the crayon. Let me go really dark over those to help a little bit. Okay, on here I had drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertical lines. So I need to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertical lines. So they should match, and you might want to go through and count them to make sure they do. Okay, let's look at our next step. Subtract by crossing off. Always start with your fraction. Well, for this one I don't have any whole numbers, so I have to start with my fraction. Okay, so I'm going to cross off. This is what I have, and this is what they want me to take away. So how many pieces do they want me to take away? They want me to take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think I'm going to do it in black just so you can see it better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They want me to take away 18 pieces from what I have, because this is what I have and this is how much they want me to take away. So let's come over to what I have, and I need to take away 18 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I took 18 pieces away from what I have. Okay, let's look at our next step. Write your answer. Well, what do you have left? Well, I have only those 2 pieces left. So I have 2 pieces out of how many? This whole was cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Or maybe you know I could have multiplied 4 times 6 and got 24. But I have 2 out of the 24 pieces left. Okay, now I'm going to simplify. So I like to do it in my head. So I'm going to try and say, does 2, is my 2 my GCF? Does 2 fit into this? Yep. Does 2 fit into this? Yep. So I'm going to simplify by 2, and 2 24ths is equal to 1/12. And that is my answer. Okay, so let's try another one. This one's going to be a little trickier because there's whole numbers, but I'm going to do the same idea. I'm going to first draw and shade both fractions, making sure one's horizontal and one's vertical. So this problem says 2 3/4 take away 1 1/3. Okay, so I have 2 whole plus I have 3/4. So it means I cut it into 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 3 of the pieces. Plus I also have these 2 wholes. I don't want to forget about them. So I have 2 3/4. And I'm going to take away 1 1/3. Now, remember, I have to do one, this is vertical, so I need to do this horizontal. Okay, so I have 1 whole, and I have 1 of the 3 pieces. Okay, so now my next step is, let's make the models match. I don't need to do anything with these right now, but this one is missing its 1, 2 horizontal lines. So let's add them. And this one is missing its 1, 2, 3 vertical lines. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I made them match. Now it says subtract by crossing off, always start with your fraction. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. They want me to take away 4 pieces. That's what this says. Take away 4 pieces. So come over here and take away 4 pieces. They also want me to take away 1 whole. So they want me to take away 1 whole. So I'm going to come over here to what I have and take away 1 whole. So what am I left with? I have 1 whole left. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out of, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 3 by 4 is 12. Okay, so I already wrote my answer. That was one of my steps. Now I'm going to simplify, and I'm going to go through it in my head. So is 4 my GCF? Does 4 fit into 4? Yep. Does 4 fit into 12? Yep. So I could divide by 4. So I'm getting 1 1/3. So 1 4/12 is equal to 1 1/3. Okay, I'm happy to not work with this red anymore. It's wearing out. All right, so let's try some. Okay, so now you should have your pencil and your crayon ready to go. All right, my first one, our problem is 4/5 take away 2/3. Okay, so our first step, and you can follow along with your steps, says to draw and shade them, making sure one's horizontal, one's vertical. So 4/5 means I have to cut it into 5 parts. 1, 2, and I have 4 of the parts. Okay, and I'm going to take away from that 2/3, which means it was cut into 3 pieces, and I have 2 of the pieces. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to make them match. So this one is missing its 1, 2 horizontal lines. And this one's missing its 1, 2, 3, 4 vertical lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is what you have, and this is what they want me to take away. So they want me to take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. So let's come over here and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. And what am I left with? I'm left with 2 pieces out of, well, this is 3 by 5 is 15. Okay, so now our last step is to simplify, and I'm going to check in my head. Is 2 my GCF? Does 2 fit into 2? Yep. Does it fit into 15? Nope, not perfectly. And then 1 works, but 1 doesn't help us. So that means I can't simplify it, and that is my answer. Okay, let's try one more. This says Violet had 4 3/4 cups of sugar. She used 1 2/5 cups of sugar to make cookies. How much does she have left? Okay, that should be my key telling me that I am going to be subtracting. So I have 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, and I have 3/4, which means it's cut into 4 pieces, and I have 3 of the pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, and 3 out of the 4 pieces. And we're going to take away 1 hole and 2/5. So I need to cut it into 5 pieces, and I have 2 of them. Plus I have my hole. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is let's make them match. So this one is missing my 1, 2, 3, 4 horizontal lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one's missing my 1, 2, 3 vertical lines. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is what I have. This is what they want me to take away. So I'm going to always start with my fraction. So they want me to take away, I'm counting 8 little parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they want me to take away 1 hole. So what am I left with? I still have 3 holes left, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces out of, how many is this? I'm saying this is out of 20. Okay, so my final step is to simplify, and I'm going to count backwards. Does 7 work? 7 works for 7, but not for 20. So let's try 6. 6 doesn't work for 7. 5, nope. 4, nope. 3, no. 2, no. And 1 doesn't help us, which means we can't simplify it. So that is our answer. Okay, you have 2 problems for homework, and rate yourself and let me know how you are feeling. Have a nice night. Good night.